All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Fearless, Inspired, and Free, my podcast where I talk to fabulous women that live across the US and hopefully one day across the globe. But I like to have conversations with people who are doing great things and people who have great stories, particularly women. So today I have Dr. Carletta E. Griffin. She is the CEO of Dominion Disability Advocates, LLC. It serves the greater Detroit area and nationally to advocate for clients seeking Social Security disability benefits. But she's also an adjunct faculty at the University of Detroit Mercy. And more recently, due to her work in the disability advocate role, she is the most recent National Association of Disability Representatives Member of the Year. Okay, and so for 2021, she was recognized for that great work. What I found interesting about Carletta is that she is a entrepreneur. She's also, working as a professor. She's a mom. She's a wife. I mean, she's just so many things. She sent me this bio over, and at the end, she says, "Oh, and by the way, in my spare time, I like to, dabble in aesthetics and real estate in her spare time." So we're going to figure out how someone who's doing so many things has the spare time to do that. But again, I have to uh, just really be in awe of the fact that even though she's very busy, I guess these are passions and she makes time. So, especially with it being, Mental Health Awareness Month and people talking about self-care and taking care of yourself, I guess she has really learned to compartmentalize that. Carletta, I think the first question I have, and I have many, but you are Dr. Carletta Griffin, and what did you study and what are you a doctor of or in?
Awesome. Well, first of all, Dana, I'm truly honored to be on your show. I just, we share a background that goes years back. So this is truly an honor to be among the fearless, inspired, and free company. Beyond that, I have a doctorate in management and organizational leadership. I acquired that in February of 2013. And that's, my wheelhouse pretty much. As an adjunct faculty, I teach leadership and management. Those are my core I'm at the core of my studies. And so it's neat to give back to the next generation of leaders and entrepreneurs, and those make it fun.
Fantastic. It sounds like your studies gave you the foundation to be at who you are at your core, which is a servant leader. And yes, we did meet early on. I think it was 2013, 2011, somewhere around there, between those 2 years.
Yeah, I think you're right, 2013.
Okay, so time flies. So it was a coaching certification. And so I knew that when I asked you to be on the show that you are a servant leader. But we're going to get into how that looks like it's been at your core, probably for your whole journey there. So management and organizational leadership. So again, servant leader. Now let's take it back. Normally what I do is I let folks just tell me their story. So starting from young, growing up, some of the things that influenced you, but what was your childhood like? How did you come to be Dr. Carletta? So tell me about early on.
Oh, that's awesome, Dana. And I love that you mentioned this core factor, because I feel like my core has been developing for all of us since childhood. Mom and dad were very active in the church, but from the time I was 2, my dad was critically ill. Like I have memories. He ultimately passed away when I was 13, but I ultimately have memories of the church being our center. And so that really frames my values of faith and family, because that was our center as a family. So my mom would leave the house every day, a passionate Christian woman who did everything in the church from Sunday school. So I would say my first lessons of service began with my parents and modeling, their example or having their example. And even though my dad was critically ill and, he had to be home and draw disability, he was very much a Mr. Mom. And I'm named after my dad, Carl. And a little known fact that my sister actually brought to my attention, I had to be like I was 12. She goes, "Oh, Carletta, your dad's name is Carl, and you're Carletta's, and Carl means strong leader. So you're little strong leader.
Oh.
And my older sister didn't know, but she was sowing an incredible seed in my life by like giving me the meaning of my name. And it just kind of changed the trajectory of my life for that moment. Even though my father was critically ill, he was a man of very strong faith. And until the day he died, he served his church and his community very passionately. And my mom did too. They were people of prayer, and that's really framed my life. Nothing happens good in my life without prayer and a relationship with God. So I have to say those are where my roots started, and really learning the meaning of my name and walking into it. I had my first leadership lessons in church. Serving, you talk about servant leadership. I learned those lessons, at the feet of some really incredible people beyond my parents, in our faith family, as I would call it. So that's where my beginning started, Dana.
That gives me a lot of insight to where you are today, because I really, one of the first things that popped in my mind when I was thinking about your Dominion Disability Advocates was, why that area? Why did she pick that? Why is that a passion of hers? And then something that she does for people. And I really do see that it started with your dad. It sounds like it sounds like he really might have, although you are the little strong leader, it sounds like maybe some of the things he struggled with and some of the things you saw, it may have planted a seed for you later in life. And
you know what, absolutely, Jane. And I didn't make that connection myself until, years probably after I started my business. But, I again have to give credit to both of my parents. Yes, I am a product. I'm a Social Security baby for a number of reasons. But were it not for those benefits, our house would not have been able to maintain. My father drew disability, and as a result, I was able, to, as a auxiliary beneficiary, draw, and that's how we supported our family in addition to my mom's income. Beyond that, I know my mom sent us to college on those benefits after he passed away. But the irony in this is my mom retired after 40 years of government service, and her last stretch of time was with the Social Security Administration. So I worked for Social Security for 8 years. My husband is still an employee. And my mom retired at 2005, 2007. So around Sunday dinner, we talked Social Security talk, but it was very much a legacy that just kind of fell into my lap. I started out corporate America, climbed to the ladder very quickly, and decided that 80-hour work weeks weren't for me. And my mom was like, you need to give government, good, secure government job. And I did that for 8 years, but I knew very quickly that I was called to be an entrepreneur and to govern my own time, if you will. Incredibly grateful for that time in government service, but it served as a launching pad for the business. So you're right, full circle, absolutely. It started with my dad and mom and those examples.
Fantastic. What a nice story. And one that obviously is going to live on because you have planted the seeds, and now you have this organization that can grow and go beyond. And it's a good, true testament to not just your dad, but both your parents and their service. And we're grateful for all the government workers and services they provide, me being a retired public servant myself. So yes, that time we spend there was very valuable. And it's not until you kind of step away from those organizations that you realize all of the lessons and all of the things that you took from that help you go forward. So
you're right on, Dana.
Just really, so you're learning how to be of service, you're building your faith foundation, you're growing up, obviously in your teen years. It's your mom, you have a sister, you said.
A younger brother.
And a younger brother. And so you guys are just kind of making your way. And it had to be a little tough, because it always is with single parents. I was a single parent for many years, and it's not easy, but it gives you the drive to, kind of make sure that your kids do better and have better. And so it couldn't have been easy, but it sounds like your mom did a phenomenal job. She got you all off to college, she got you through high school. And so at this time, obviously, because you tell me in your bio that you married your high school sweetheart. So somehow or sometime in between this time, you meet up with your now current love of your life. And so that, but still, it seems like though, even if you met, because sometimes in teenage relationships, you can get deterred. You can just get all kinds of off your path. It sounds like though you stayed on that path. And so was this supportive or how did this go? Having
Dana, you ask incredible questions. And I have to tell you this quick story because my mom went into super, I don't know, crazy mom mode. Like she went into mommy daddy mode after my dad passed away. And I'm thankful that I had him those formative years because he passed away when I was 13. But my mom did not let up. It was not, getting deterred was never the option. It was understood, never stated, you will at least get a 4-year degree. I mean, and my sister set the path. Like she knew in 4th grade that she wanted to be a journalist and she's, making her mark in incredible ways today. But knowing how strict my mom was, she made it a point on Wednesday nights that we would have family Bible study after my father passed away. And this one with a little trepidation, she would always say, well, what, is your prayer request tonight? And this particular night, Dana, I was like, well, I'm going to be honest. I want a boyfriend. He doesn't have to be a boyfriend, like a kissing boyfriend, just, a friend who happens to be a boy. And I was sincere. I wasn't holding anything back, but I took a big risk telling my mother. And to my surprise, she was like, Carletta, is that what you really want? And I was like, yeah, expecting something else from her. And she was like, okay, let's pray. And Dana, that Sunday, I met my husband at a church convention here in Detroit, Bailey Cathedral.
Oh my goodness.
I know, it almost brings me tears to talk about. Yep.
Wow. So you had Wednesday night prayer and,
Family
Bible
prayer
study
around the
with your
table.
mom. And by Sunday, you met who would be your husband down the line.
Sunday, Dana. That Sunday.
Oh my goodness. And how old were you at that time?
I was 15 and he was 18. He had just graduated high school.
Oh my goodness.
I can't describe a better love story. Like we met in this big atrium of this cathedral and I locked eyes with him. And you have to know, I wouldn't even look at a boy in his face. He would tell you I didn't talk to him like the first week. I was so just that shy, but I knew, we both knew in that moment.
Wow. And so
I had to go away to school.
Yes, you had to stay.
My mom was like, you are not going to be boy crazy. You're going away to school. You're going to finish. And my husband endured hardness as a good soldier dating me because my mom did not play. And she gave him a hard time that she still says, well, I was just making a man out of you.
As she should though, because you were her daughter and she just wanted to make sure that you had a good foundation, because I think as moms, we just kind of want to make sure our kids can fly on their own, no matter what, that they can take care of themselves, that they're well-rounded and things like that. And so I have to give your mom a fist bump for that, for, staying on you a little bit, but I really love the story. And so obviously you went through high school. You went to college and you stayed in touch, obviously. So there wasn't in this story one of the things like, oh, he was my, teenage boyfriend, but then we split paths for a while and then we met up later. This was a continual thing. So you guys have been together.
Dana, but we did have a break in there. We're like, you know what? Let's just take a break from each other. But I never really took a break. I think he would say the same. We never took a break in our hearts. I tried to date other people and it was just like first day, no.
You just knew, right from the beginning.
You just knew, but yeah, we stayed together.
Oh my goodness. And I guess we'll go back then to the power of prayer. I mean, literally, if you're sincere, and I think your mom said it best, she's like, is this what you really want? Because a lot of times we pray, and people say, well, I prayed, but what were you sincere in it? Is it really what you wanted? Did you think that through? Is it something that you needed God's assistance to, get you through or help you see or give you a path? And so I think that what's I'm thinking about is 15 and you really knew this is what I want and my mom's gonna pray with me. And she said, I guess she could see the sincerity and said, hey, okay, let's pray. And
Yeah.
so I love to hear a good power prayer story. So, and it's so sweet,
Yes.
so sweet, the high school sweethearts. So then you get through, you go to college. What was your path of study in college? Because obviously you kept going and kept going and kept going. So tell me some of the things that you went, you got your bachelor, but what made you keep going, and what was your drive to continually get these degrees that you're getting?
Awesome question again. I started out, I attended Christian high school because that's the first thing my mom did when my dad passed away, is put us in private school. And I went to Oral Roberts my first 2 years and had an incredible experience staying at, like, they talk about heaven being paved with the streets of gold. I don't know if you've ever seen like pictures of the Oral Roberts campus, but it was just, it was everything. It was bliss. It was a Christian experience on steroids. However, after my second year, and it was time for my brother to go to school, and I majored in business education, because I knew I wasn't definitive on my path being out, because I knew I liked the business world and I knew I liked education. So this was the best place to start. And I've always believed in creating options, even young. So I knew that I would have some options there, but that's where I am. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do with it, but that's going to give me some options. So that was my path. But after 2 years, my brother entered college, and my mom asked me to pray and says, you know what, your brother's entering college. Lane College is a tradition in our family, historically Black institution. Would you consider going, there with your brother to be a little lighter on my budget? And although I believe I remember praying, I think, but the fact that it was going to be lighter on my mom financially was kind of a no-brainer for me. She had made so many sacrifices. So it was just like, sure, yeah, let's make it happen. Really leaving the comfort cushion of Oral Roberts, you're light among lights there. And not to say that Lane was dark, but it was just a different setting. I mean, Lane is, in the heart, for lack of a better term, some might call the ghetto within Jackson, Tennessee. I'm not sure that it's the ghetto anymore. I don't even know if the people would term that, so I might even be offended. But for all intents and purposes, they were very different worlds, Dana, but Lane was a world that I needed to round me out, because I had been in protective environments all of my life. Basically, you grow up in the church and then you go to this really awesome Christian school, where Lane still had a Christian foundation, but it was where the rubber met the road for me in my Christian walk. So I continued my business ed major, had phenomenal experience at Lane that I would have never had at Oral Roberts. I was first runner up to Miss Lane my last year. I was student government president. And I really gained a sense of value and love for, the Black community, my own culture. I can't explain it, but I think, like, I needed that. I needed to make that stop before I was launched into, the world of business and leadership. So Lane is very deep in my roots, and it is a family tradition. It's a legacy in our family to attend there and graduate. I hope I answer your questions.
You did, and it sounds like you made some concessions so that your mom could make a way for both you and your brother. Again, so within, you want him to succeed, you want your mom to be okay, and you're like, what, I can make a way wherever I go. The shocking difference between the schools and how you saw that as a great experience, because sometimes we do have to kind of see everything. We have to, we don't want to stay in a bubble our whole life. And sometimes we are, our parents can keep us in that, or they'll, shoot us to different places where they think, okay, but you have to be exposed and you have to live life. And it sounds like you had a wonderful experience there. And look, and it gave you a different view, a different approach to things. And it sounds like you got there and were a leader there too. What do you, Miss Runner Up to Miss Lane, president of, what were you, president of the
Student government president.
student government?
Yeah.
So you were there again, leading and, being a voice and things like that. So it sounds like this is like a common thread. So no matter where you go, you're going to do and make something good of it. And with that foundation that you have, I would say with God on your side, you can do anything. So you've done that. So you get through school. Now, obviously, you get to the point where you do a doctorate degree. What did you do in the interim? So you went and you got your 4-year. Yeah, great time. And do you just delve right into the work world, or, how did you kind of keep going in that?
Um, I did delve into the work world. I have to tell you, and just this little caveat, because I don't want to paint this picture. In full disclosure, Dana, I attended Lane Sight Unseen. It was a tradition in our family, but I hadn't seen the campus in at least 10 years. And so when my mom dropped me and my brother off, I was like, what did you just do? Like, the surrounding areas of the campus. I was attitudinal that first day. And I remember my mom dropped us off. She got me settled in my room. She's like, oh, ye of little faith. I was like, you stay here and then you show your faith. But so in full disclosure, I want you to know, like, I had an attitude at first, but like you said, I was determined I had to make the best of this, and I did. So your question was what happened? My last year of college, which is critical, Dana, I was in a very bad vehicle accident with 3 of my girlfriends, and I was actually slated to cross AKA, and ultimately decided, not to take that path. But these 3 ladies were already sorority members. We had bonded, and we had determined we were going to drive to Thanksgiving dinner. We were going to all meet connections in Chicago. My boyfriend, now husband, was going to be there, and we all had family connections in Chicago. Left very early in the morning. In retrospect, you see things differently. We probably should have gotten more sleep. But long story short, the driver passed away in that accident. I was thrown from the car, and the other 2 ladies that survived the accident sustained injuries as well. So I went through a little bit of a breakdown. In full disclosure, Dana, to in one moment see your girlfriend, Monique, and she's looking back at you in the cars. She would call me Carluli, and then the next minute you're in an elevator and the nurse is telling you, I regret to inform you, but the driver died. So my world spun, and this is my last year of college. It spun in a way like I had a mental breakdown. So my getting into the report, it took me, a few months to find my balance. And I was also at the time asserting my own independence. So, I was just really trying to cope, Dana, right out of college. And I landed at what was called the Associates, which is a division of Ford Motor. And they did mortgage finance. And I learned so much from that company, got hired at another company, climbed the ladder really fast. And a year after me and my husband got married, or within weeks or months after we got married in 98, they were relocating me to Indianapolis, Indiana. So we lived there for about 7 years. And I told myself I would give myself a year in the job, Dana, because I didn't even get to take a honeymoon, which in retrospect, I would never advise that. But my first year of marriage, I wasn't really enjoying, because I was working 70, 80 hours a week. I was like 24, 25 years old, managing people who was older than me, a very diverse staff. So you get second guessed from a lot of different angles.
I know all about it.
Do that job over just because I owe those people an apology, just from the manager that I was and I've developed into. But I'm thankful that trajectory of the mortgage finance propelled me. And I said, I'm going to do this job a year, and I'm going to take off and do something I really want to do. And that's when I went back to aesthetic school after I gave that job a year. And then after that, I returned to the mortgage industry, but not in management, and then ultimately got into Social Security. So all of that, and you talk about the power of prayer. My life has been a series of answered prayers. So yeah, that's what happened for me. Right. And then once I got my doctorate in 2013, my dream was to teach. I thought it would happen like 5 years down the line. And I got a call sitting at my Social Security desk from the University of Detroit saying, we want to hire you to teach in 2 weeks.
Wow. First, can I just pause for a second and tell you, I'm really sorry to hear about your friend Monique. I know it's been a long time, but I know that never goes away. I know I've lost a couple of friends that really is hurtful. And so I'm so glad you made it through that process. I'm so glad that you took the time, but I do know that to recover from that is a lifelong process. So I just wanted to let you know that. Yeah. So what I am happy about is that you did come out of that, and that you have found some success and some joy in pockets. And I'm with you. Uh, hard
Mhm.
chargers, such as ourselves, that always have to, be getting something done. I did the same when I got married. We didn't go on a honeymoon. We took a real estate course for a whole week. And I'm like, who does this? And we're like studying, and
Yeah.
it is
Mhm.
so you start off as a hard charger, like I'm going to keep going. But also what I hear is that sometimes we have some bumps in the road, and each one affects us differently, but it helps build, it helps us build, it helps us build and get to a place where we need to be. And so I think that I'm so happy that even after all of that, you are doing what you love, which is, it sounds like teaching,
Yeah.
being a professor, and that you have really gotten your business going. And also, I hear again you dabbling in, your passion. And I have to say, my coming out of high school, I really wanted to be an esthetician. I think to the day I leave this earth, I'm going to want to be an esthetician. Now, whether I make time for it or not. And my story on that is another day. My father's like, no. We're not doing that. And I'm like, oh, okay. So, I scroll endless pages of people doing beautiful things, makeup and skincare,
You'd be
because
phenomenal.
I love it. I love it. So it's so neat that you dabble in that. So we're going to go forward and talk about now. And we're going to talk about the fact that you advocate for people who are in need of these benefits. And I had some questions. So now I know why you started. We have a great foundation for why you're here. And in full disclosure to all of our listeners, I said, before I heard your story, and I didn't know your story to just now, I know that you're a pretty conservative woman. And I was like, here we are, you have this organization where you're helping people. And people always say that when someone's conservative or they have conservative beliefs, they're not willing to help and not willing to assist. And this to me, which intrigued me to reach out and say, hey, I want to talk to you and to learn. You are a servant leader at heart, and you do want the best. And so I'll leave it there, but that's why I was trying to figure out the story. And well, not the only reason, but it's right there. Like, you just walked us through this amazing story of, resilience and faith, and, family that also needed, and friends that at times were in need. And this is why you are who you are. And so I'd love the story. Now, some of the information that you can share about this process. So you help people get their disability benefits. And I'll have to say that I've got to kind of searched and looked up some stats, and they're really hard to get. Like, it's somewhere between like 35 and 41% get them right out the gate, or the first time they try pass that first time they submit that paperwork. There's a huge denial there. So tell us about this, and tell us how you help people, because I read one of the people that said you helped them through, they had brain surgery for a third time, and you were very, very helpful. I was reading some of the people that you helped. And so tell us about this process, and tell us why it's so difficult.
Awesome. And I'm so impressed with your stat research, because we find ourselves as a company, one of our main values is to educate so that someone's better for having gone through the process. I don't want to just get you your money. I want you to be a little bit more informed about the government process. So you're absolutely right. 70% of the people that apply are initially denied, which does create, work for myself, which is great, job security. But that's a problem. And a lot of times that people, they say we perish, scripture says we perish for lack of knowledge. It is simply the lack of knowing. Government bureaucracy and that whole interface can be daunting. It can be intimidating. And I know that. And so I want to be that connector, if you will, for, the average person and the system, and bridging the gap, and be that voice for them. And I take it very personally, Dana, because you did touch on that, and I'm only going to tap it and then get right back out of it, because I know we're not going on the political bit. But that is the misnomer that conservatives get, is that we are not passionate about community or minorities or any of that. And that couldn't be further from the truth for me. I was raised in the heart of Detroit. I'm a product of Detroit public schools through middle school. And I was intentional that when I launched my practice, that I wanted it to be a big give back to the city of Detroit, who's given me so much. I practice nationally, but my focus is my beloved Detroit, Detroit, the Renaissance City, because the need here is so great. So just to tie that in,
Yeah.
yeah, we want to be agents of hope. We've nicknamed our disability advocates the agents of hope because, you know, when you figure I can spend anywhere from 3 to 4 months with a client, I just closed a case that I was with 2 of them, 5 years, Dana, they were stuck in the system trying to get approved, going through denials, reapplying, appealing. And so I take my work very seriously. And, you know, I'm blessed to make a living from it, but I'm not in it for the income, I'm in it for the outcome. It is really getting the people who deserve the benefits their money. And this is their money. You know, we pay into these systems, Social Security tax. So they do have an arm that is, you know, welfare, but it's still taxpayer funded. So it's not like we're fighting for other people's money. We're fighting for money that we put into the system. And I take that very personally, and making sure each client gets treated like family on my end. And our success rating, we're really ecstatic, is, you know, it fluctuates between 80 and 90%, somewhere around there, but we don't play the games that many attorneys, I won't blackball all of them, play. You know, there is, you know, because you're paid on back pay. So it's to someone's advantage to go and say, go get go get denied and come back and see me. No. We don't play those games. My goal is to get you approved the first round. If we have to go second and third round, that's one thing. But God is my boss and I have to sleep at night. So I can't play those games. And these are people's lives. So if I pop my collar on anything, Dana, with our work, is at any given moment, I can have 5 or 6 people that are either homeless, sleeping in their car. And, you know, scripture says, when you've done it unto the least of us, among us, you've done it unto God. And I do take that very seriously. So it is an honor to serve the population of people that I get to serve.
Well, that's fantastic. And, you know, I know that you serve the Detroit area, but you also say this is national. And so before we close out, I want you to give your information for your website and, you know, any information you want to give so people can go on and take a look. And I would encourage people to, what are some of the more common disabilities that you have worked with? You know, what are some of the things that Americans are dealing with that they need to apply for these benefits and receive that help?
Where I see a big influx of mental on the rise, mental health crisis being visited upon the people that are applying. I can't tell you the number of cases we're getting where there's a bipolar, schizophrenia, or depression component, and it almost always accompanies another a physical disability. But another passion of mine are you know, felons that are coming, you know, home out of prison. That I love them, and it is that component, the mental, you know, from being institutionalized for so long. So that is really huge. The mental health piece and disabilities that are so linked to stress. Like if we can manage stress better, globally, nationally, it would do a lot to offset, you know, what we're having to see people in the system for. Stress is very real. And I know you have an appreciation for this because you're always, I don't know, I look at your page, Dana, and I'm like, she is always somewhere. And I always just feel de-stressed just looking at her page. If we could find like creative ways, more inventive ways to manage our stress in society, I think we'd see less disability cases. So the MS, multiple sclerosis, I see a lot of seizures. I'm starting to see a lot of, and they're out of nowhere. And the young, I am amazed at how many young people are now struggling with diseases that were typically, you know, quadrant for older populations. So yeah, we got to wrap our arms around this stress factor, and stress comes in many different forms. So
it's so interesting you said that. A past guest I had, and she has battled breast cancer, and she said that her particular type, the root of it was stress. and, or a component of it was stress. I don't know enough about cancer to speak on it, but she gave us some quick learning tools in our talk. But stress, she said, if she could tell anybody, you have to find a way to release it. And she had lived a life full of anxiety and stress, and the buildup, probably for her body. But I think it's very, very important point that you just made, that, we really need to figure out as a nation how to, deal with the stress. I also love that you are passionate about reentry. And so, because it really is, if we can help people re-enter and become citizens, one, that you want them to be citizens in the community, but two, I think when I think about it, humans and people want to be able to take care of themselves. They want to be accepted. They want to be able to go out and take care of themselves. And sometimes when they re-enter and they're not, or they're put back in a community where they can't do it, they don't have the best outcomes. And so, because I know that you've been so successful in, advocating for your space in the disability Social Security realm, I know that if this is something that you put your sights on, you will do well at that. So I'm going to keep tabs on you, because I want to see where that goes. I mean, maybe there's a little seed planted there, and I'm going to keep up with you on that. And it doesn't stop there with you. I mean, you have your organization, but then you just and let me get my notes here, because it says that your love of Detroit is very evident, but also your love of the church. And so you did an extension of your doctoral dissertation, the role of African American church leadership within the city of Detroit, and you launched another foundation, which is One Conscious Detroit Church Foundation. And what I found so interesting about that is that you want to unite the citizens of Detroit in varying Christian faiths, so, no matter what, if you're Christian, that, the tags are gone, but you want to kind of unite people to serve the community and meet the challenge. So tell me a little bit about that, because I feel like it's a little bit of what you're already, you're helping people, but now you're going to take it over to the church and then tackle some community issues. So not just some of the mental health or physical disability issues that we might be struggling with as a nation, but in your community, in your church community, serving the community. And I think a little of the reentry plays into this, but tell me about this organization.
Yeah, that another passion, if you will. I would call it, for me, it's like my ministry, what I do with my doctorate. Because it's one thing to just say, you have a doctorate, but I wanted to do something with it. And after that research, Dana, I got to interview about 16, 17 pastors all over the city of Detroit. Some very well-known names, if I called, you'd know, and some not so well-known names. And what came out of that study, I would literally drive around before I even thought about a doctor at the city and go, like, we have all this peril here. Detroit has some great things. So we're not all destruction and death, like what's on the news, but it is, our lot that we have to address in many ways. And I just couldn't get away from, we have all these social ills that are being revisited in our city. We're still recovering from the late 1960s riot, Dana. I mean, we still are bouncing back. So it was just, man, I really do believe, being a person of faith, that God is the answer. And if God is the answer, then how are we extending that faith, that belief, that hope in God? How do we as Christians extend that to community to make our world better? That's just what it comes down to me for me, Dana. So I was like, no better institution than the church. Let's start there, because I think we have the greatest responsibility. I've been very passionate about that, and that's a whole nother bent. But coming back, after I interviewed these pastors, my findings led me to very fragmented. We have all these factions in the institution of the church, even selfish aspiration, if you will. And I was a part of it, so I'm including myself. And it kept us from serving community because we were so disjointed. You've got missionary Baptists over here doing their thing. You've got Apostolic Temple over here doing their thing. And if we would just come together, we could solve this crisis or make a dent in it. And it was just, It was enlightening, Dana, but it was very grieving to me. So, hey, God, what can I do with this? I got this degree. I made this study. Here are my findings. What do I do with this, Lord? And there was a lot of tears, a lot of prayer again. And for me, it was just a start. Let me just do something to start in my corner of the world with One Conscious Detroit Church Foundation, which is, unifying, putting boots on the ground together of varying faiths. Never mind you believe this, never mind your theology says this. But we can unite. My mom always taught me, if you can unite on Jesus, everything else will work itself out. So that's how that came about. And I'll be honest with you, Dana, I expected people just to come rallying in. Foolish, idealistic of me. There's still a great big faction that keeps us divided. So we've just started doing things simply. We started out having prayer in the park downtown on the River Walk once a month, but the pandemic came to put a halt to things. But we're revving back up and we're planning to get on the bus and share Christ with the community, and each one reach one at a time. And that's where we are. And those who want to come, of the faith family, I call it, and participate. But many weekends, it's me and my family, and it's all good, Dana. We've been able to do some incredible things. We pay for people's gas. We had a family not too long ago that had water in their basement. And I heard really clearly that I was supposed to help this family, and we were able to put them up in a hotel for a few days while they work things out. So it's just identifying the needs, seeing who wants to partner with us, and making a difference in our community that way.
Wow. I mean, that is great. And don't you worry about it being small, because, so is a mustard seed, right? So it will grow. And if you're faithful and consistent, and that's with everything in life. And so I really, really appreciate you doing that, because there is a disconnect in the faiths and things like that. And it's nice if we can get some unity and work together, because like as it grows in the numbers, we'll be able to just touch so many more people, and not just your individual group or audience and things like that. And when you talk about Detroit, I went many, many years ago. My girlfriend, her grandmother lived there. And I remember we did a road trip. I went to see her there, and we had a blast. And yes, and we rode around, and there were areas there that were, just, it's so sad to see. But then she just sent me a picture the other day of the house where we went and stayed, and it's turned into a beautiful like Airbnb, like breakfast, what do you call it, bed and breakfast place. And she sent like the link and all the pictures, and I was like, oh my goodness. So to me, that's hope. I mean, that's hope. And so I really was just happy to see that. So when you say that, hey, it's not up, I know, because I've seen some of the growth. And I also, my first guest, no, she's in Indianapolis area. Indianapolis. I think she was in Indianapolis, but anyway, but yes, no. So anyway, I am just in awe of all the things that you have done and you are able to do, and that I know you will continue to do. And I appreciate you just talking to me about your life and how you came to be Dr. Carletta. And I have really enjoyed your story. Before we end, I'm going to tell everybody that you have your passions and your values, and they fall into these categories. And so we want everybody to listen to these categories and pick some out, and let's join in the fun. Carletta is very passionate about faith, family, freedom, fun, and fitness. And as you can see, listening to her life, having those things as our core have helped her to not only be resilient, but to also create, but also serve and find, joy in some of the moments. So I really appreciate our time today, Carletta, and we'll be in touch, because I would love to see how the business is going, and I would love to see how your newest endeavor to kind of unify the faith groups in your area goes. So thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, Dana. And I have to say, Coach Dana, because if this was the gift that keeps on giving, just having an opportunity to have this discussion with you is therapeutic. And your call to me to remain faithful and consistent. That was the coach. So I appreciate the coach emerging for me today. Thank you.
Oh, fantastic. That's awesome. Good feedback for me. And before we sign off, tell people what your website and where they can get information on your organization.
Okay, well, I have to, again, pop my collars as the winning or member of the year for the NADAR, National Association of Disability Reps. We're revamping our website because I wanted it to be more of a standard worthy of the member of the year. However, if you go there, it'll direct you, our Facebook page, Dominion Disability Advocates, DominionDisability.com is our website. And you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. And we'd love to chat. Even if you just have questions, we'd love to answer any questions you have.
That's fantastic. So everyone take a look and send your questions in. She's there to help. Carletta, thank you. Have a wonderful day.
You too, Dana. Love you.